Well, hi, everyone. I'm Colleen Benelli, and I'm here, of course, with Robin, my daughter.
Hello.
Hi, Robin. And we're really excited today to have our guest, Kenloch.
Hello, this is
Hi,
Kenloch.
Kenloch.
Nice to meet you,
So,
all of you.
so glad you're here. And just full disclosure, it is past midnight where Kenloch is. So this is late. And thank you so much for your willingness to work within that time zone.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Also, I like the late night talk show vibe here.
There you go.
Yeah, very relaxing here. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Like each time when I'm listening to a podcast, I feel like, oh, this is really relaxing. It's like me immersing in the Reiki energy.
Oh, I love it. Oh, so good. Well, we are excited to have Kenloch here. I met him a couple years ago in Japan, and just we had an immediate connection, and really excited that he decided to join the licensed teacher program with the ICRT, and we'll get into all of that. But first, I want to read his bio. So Kenloch is a Hong Kong and Australia-based Reiki teacher. He's proficient in Cantonese, Mandarin, and English, he has made significant strides in bringing the Chinese and international Reiki communities together. With a rich experience of teaching over 1,000 students, Kenloch not only shares his wealth of knowledge, but also translate Reiki resource for non-English speaking communities. His academic background in religious studies allows him to weave traditional spirituality with scholarly understanding, making Reiki more comprehensible and culturally relatable. His teaching philosophy emphasizes both technique and spiritual understanding, fostering a profound connection between his students in the practice of Reiki, encouraging them to incorporate Reiki's healing essence into their everyday life. His website is kenlochhealingspace.boutir.com, and Kenloch is Kenloch, healing space. Boutir is BOUTIR.com. Anyway, we'll put it in our show notes so you can find it again. You can also always email us at reikilifestyle.com and find it. His email is Hearn, the ancient forest at outlook.com, and Hearn is spelled HERNE, Hearn, the ancient forest at outlook.com. And then his Instagram is Kenloch, the oak tree. So anyway, we want to go ahead and welcome you again, Kenloch. We're so excited to hear some of the topics that you are going to share with us today. And I'm really excited also about your religious studies and how that has merged with Reiki. So, but let's go ahead and start with your story.
So, before I get started, I just want to ask, so Colleen, how old is your youngest guest in your podcast?
Oh, good question. You might be the youngest.
Yes.
Am I the only Gen Z here?
We've had maybe some Gen Zs.
I'd have to think about it.
I have to think about it.
Yeah.
But definitely you're the youngest.
You're among the youngest, I would definitely say.
Yeah. Thank you for having us. Yeah. I'm 24 years old for this.
Oh, you're 24. Okay. Yeah, I think you might be the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my age actually brings out the story of today's topic. But I just want to share like my background to all of you guys. So I grew up in a Buddhist family. So like really traditional, like Tibetan style of Buddhist family. So I grew up doing all the meditation and mantra chanting all the time. So that's kind of like my first connection with spirituality. But then somehow one day I realized that there's a lot of misbelief and there's also a lot of controlling energy in my religious background. So I kind of like becoming a little bit like against all of them. So like for a while in my life, I became an atheist. So I'm becoming a little bit cynical and then not believing anything that sounds like spiritual because that just make me a little bit like rethink all those controlling ideas and also all those experience in my life. But then one day I remember it's like when I was like 15, I bought my first tarot card, like just on the street. And feel like, oh, it looks cool. It looks cool like doing tarot reading for others. And then I start to play a little bit tarot, learn a little bit, and try to like read my friends' stories. Like when they came to me, I do tarot reading for them. And then I started to learn astrology as well. And at that moment, I kind of like find this spiritual connection, say with God or with the higher source. And I feel like it's beyond religion. It's not the religion itself, it's the higher power behind the religion. So I started to pick up my spiritual belief. And back in the days is how the new age concept that is introduced to Hong Kong or like to myself personally, like the idea that spirituality doesn't really have to come with religion. Like you can be really spiritual, but you don't have to be religious. And that idea just fascinates me. So I started to learn different things. And then the first thing that I really got into like is Reiki because I was having a friend and my friend is learn Reiki somewhere, and then she was trying to use Reiki on me, and I felt like, oh wow, that's amazing, because like I was still in high school, and then it was really stressful. Like imagine in Hong Kong, Hong Kong is one of the most stressful city in the world, and because I was a high school student in Hong Kong, and I'm really stressful all the time. But I just feel like when I receive Reiki, all the stress just kind of like released. So it's not like all the stress like just magically gone, but it gives me the powers to deal with the stress and all the emotion. So I was like, oh, I'm going to learn that. So I actually received my first Reiki level 1 class when I was 17. So like right after I graduated from my high school. So after graduated from my high school, I got good grades from my high school test. So eventually I was like thinking what kind of major I should get into. Like I don't want to get like really traditional majors like being a lawyer, doctor, or like economist. I just feel like I want to learn something that can kind of like change the way how I see the world and then kind of like bring myself into a more philosophical or more spiritual thinking. So eventually I picked up religious studies as my major and all the things that I learned kind of like just helped me started to how to present spirituality in a more down to earth and also like with evidence and then scholarly way of thinking. So that's how my story started, like my Reiki journey. And I started to teach Reiki for 4 years now. So I started to teach Reiki when I was 21. So now I'm 24, and I taught Reiki for 4 years, and I became the first licensed teacher who speak Cantonese in ICRT. Yeah. So thank you for all of that.
Where did your journey start? Like, how did you know about the ICRT, and where did your journey start with that piece of it too? And becoming an LRMT, and you also went through the program really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I took my first class with a professional member in my area.
Okay.
Yeah, so I took some other classes, but then I found ICRT is giving a more professional way of teaching. So say the manual that we use in the class just makes me feel like really safe to learn. So because it's all with evidence, and then also it's not just giving out ideas, it's with explanation, and also like full of different amazing stories. So it just makes me feel like build a trust to ICRT. And I'm talking to myself, like, well, if I want to be a Reiki teacher one day, I want to be an ICRT Reiki teacher. So I kind of that, like when I start to teach, I apply for affiliate member. And then I after I taught like few months, I feel like I want to be a professional member. And then I learned from William Lee Rand. So yeah, but the story is like after I became um professional member, because I want to feel like I deserve the name professional, because I don't just want to be like having the name of professional but not having like the actual quality of professionalism. So I start to learn more ways to teach, and then start to build my teaching skills and start to learn from more and more teachers. So that's why I learned from Colleen here, and I also learned from my mentor Pam Ellen LeBlanc. So to kind of like to strengthen my teaching skills all the years. Eventually, I decided to be a licensed Reiki master teacher because I feel like there's something that I belong to, and there's something that I feel like is a way for me to make contribution to my area and also to the world. So that's why.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, in 4 years teaching 1,000 students, that's really amazing, Kenloch. How have you seen some of the, like you just talked about contributions, how have you kind of seen that in your area? Now you teach in Hong Kong, but you teach in other places as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I taught in Hong Kong, and also because like lots of Hong Kong people is immigrating to somewhere else.
Mm.
So I taught like Hong Kong people all around the world. And sometimes they introduce their friends, say from Taiwan, from France, from Canada to me as well. So like that's why I was like teaching people all around the world.
Mhm.
So I think making contribution is like to provide a more deeper understanding to the Reiki practice itself, because Reiki is something that continuously evolving, as William said, like it's going to have more and more evolution. So I think my religious studies background sometimes can give a little bit more explanation to say the symbols or the practice behind, and then is a way for people to know its root. And I also like really like Colleen and Robin's business idea, like Reiki lifestyle, like having Reiki as your lifestyle. So I try to like give my own perspective on how to use Reiki in your daily life, and eventually becomes your lifestyle as well. So I guess that's kind of the way that I'm contributing to the Reiki community in my area.
Yeah, big time. I can really imagine that there's a huge ripple effect from that with, all of the students you teach and contributing to their lives, but also just in your area and how much that's contributing to bringing Reiki into that, your world, that the world in general, and then especially like that part of the world.
And then I also started to teach Reiki to my friends that are from different professional area as well. So say some of my friend is a traditional Chinese medical practitioner, or some of my friend is like a astrologer. So they already have their own perspective to understand human wellness. so spiritual wellness or like physical wellness. So I guess one of the thing amazing in Reiki is that it can easily merge into different kind of practice. So like by teaching them is also helping them to help to develop their own practices and to give Reiki to support them. So say recently I taught one of my friends who is a traditional Chinese medical practitioner. So she was doing acupuncture. But like when you're using the acupuncture, when you're using the needle, you actually have to use your own energy. So say she actually have to deal with 15 clients every day. So it kind of like use a lot of energy. So by having Reiki is having the like the Reiki energy behind to support her. And then also I taught her like the Kenyoku, and then also how to use the symbols to protect and then to energize herself. So it kind of like help her to makes her practice more easily for her. So it doesn't really exhaust her.
More sustainable for
Yeah.
her as a practitioner.
Well, and when the energy flows through you, you're not using your own life force energy. And so that's a huge difference for someone in her kind of work, and helping her to probably manage compassion fatigue too, that people
Yeah.
can find. Well, Kenloch, you've had an amazing experience through the LRMT, and I know, you've talked with us about it changing your teaching style and things, and how that is complementing and merging with you personally too, with your religious studies and the knowledge that you are gaining and experience you're gaining with the symbols. And so I'd love to hear a lot more about that part of it too from you, and from your perspective.
Yeah. So I guess like when I first teaching, like before I was at LRMT, then sometimes I talk too scholarly, maybe. So when I explain some concept, it becomes a little bit like off grounded. So because it's not something that we would understand in our daily life. But then I have a amazing mentor, which is Pam, and then Pam is really a down to earth teacher. So like each time when she's explaining some concept, so she's giving all the examples all the time. So I think it kind of like changed my teaching style to start to give personal example or example from other licensed teacher. Yeah. So that's how it changed me. So say the symbol, all the symbols behind is actually some religious background. So say chokure, is originally from Shintoism, which is Taoism. And then chokure, we can actually find the kanji behind. Kanji means Chinese word. So chokure, I actually brought you guys this. So this is one of the amamori from traditional Japanese Shintoism.
Hold
So
on.
the kanji
I'm
itself
going to
is
spotlight you. Hold on 1 second.
okay.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Okay, that way. Maybe
Yeah.
people
So the kanji itself is pronounced as chokure. So this is choku and this is rei. You see the Reiki word here, so like it's
Yeah,
choku
okay.
rei, and then actually the choku itself, it looks a little bit like chokure. Can
Yeah.
you see that? So like in recent ICRT research, like William said that it's discovered that is Usui Sensei only invented the idea of chokure, and then the other members of the Gakkai make it become a symbol. So I think this is one of the background of chakra as well, because it's pronounced as chakra in Shintoism, means that the energy directly from the spiritual consciousness. So like when you're having this amamoli, it's like having the spirit always be with you, and then it brings spiritual support into your different daily life matters. So it also fits the idea of chakra as well. Yeah. So that's one of the origin of chakra, I say. So another thing is chakra in kanji. Also, there's another form of kanji. So I also brought you guys this.
Okay.
So
Hold on.
it's one of my work.
Let
Yeah.
me spotlight you 1 second.
So in Chinese word or in kanji, this is choku and this is like rei. It's one of the way to write choku. So the meaning of it is the order from the emperor. So it's like emperor giving order. So it's actually one of the most ancient way to write this Chinese. So you see a little bit space behind, like in between this here. So it's actually for people who are writing the spell, like people from the temple who are writing the spell, and they put it inside. So the spell is here. So it's like the god is, or the emperor is giving order to help you to manifest that. So it also fits the idea of chakra, like to bring manifestation.
Well, that is really fascinating. I guess I didn't realize that it was also written actually out in kanji. So I've only ever been familiar with it as the symbol and the spiral.
Yeah, because chakra like is actually, the pronunciation is actually quite common in Japanese and also in Chinese language as well. Like you can actually hear this kind of word when you are trying to learn some spiritual concept behind. So chakra is actually quite fundamental in Shintoism. So the idea is that to bring the support of the god directly into your life. And then it's all Shintoism about, like, it's not just a spiritual practice, and then it's allowing you to merge the spiritual practice into your daily life, and then having the higher power support in your life.
So then kind of part of what you're saying is that it's a fundamental piece of Shintoism. So even though there might not have been a symbol for it until what was it, the second or the third and fourth members?
Second
president of the Gakkai, Usui Sensei would have still had that concept within the practice of Reiki or the practice of his life, the spiritual practice of his life. And then it was maybe later that there was an actual symbol put to that concept.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Because this concept is already existed for thousands of years.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So how does it relate with the idea of, you called it the emperor's command? Is that the right word? Did you
Yeah,
say?
the emperor's command. Because the word chakra sometimes is used in political paper as well. So it's like the tenno in Japan or the emperor in Chinese. When they are giving out like orders, they kind of have to follow it. Because in Chinese and Japanese, like national system, the emperor and or the tenno is the god, is the representative of God. So they are already the god. So they are the only one who are allowed to use this word. But then eventually, because it's going to be something that we can use in our daily life, so it kind of like transition to another kanji, so which is the one that I just showed you, the chokure, like the amamori. So it doesn't have to be like only the tenno, only a tempera can use it. It becomes something that we can use in our daily life.
So for those who can't see, who are listening to this, what Kenloch is showing, and I'm sorry, I don't know the name of it, but
It's a lucky charm,
say it
amamori.
again.
Amamori. So it's like a lucky charm in Shintoism temple.
So it actually has embroidered on it the kanji for the words choku and rei. So choku is one of the kanjis at the top, and then the bottom is rei. So that, Kenloch, that is the first time I've heard that or seen that or known that. I'm really fascinated by the concept and how then now can you go a little bit deeper into the concepts with it and Shintoism, and a little bit more about the Shintoism part of it?
Yeah. So Shintoism have actually two parts of it. So the first part of it is the belief of nature. So like Shintoism believe that everything have a spirit inside. So it's the animism idea. So say the tree, there's a tree of a god of tree, and then god of the ocean, and then also god of the moon, god of the sun. So when we look into that, it's like the spirit is around you. So it's really a quite animal Reiki idea as well. So like the spirit of the earth. So another part of it is the Japanese emperor system. So they have a hierarchy itself, and then they are calling the emperor is the representative of the god. So that's why it's kind of like there's two kanji of it. So the first kanji of the chokure is tempera's command, and another kanji of chokure is the direct connection from the spirit. So it kind of like explains two parts of the Shintoism itself, because Shintoism is not only a spiritual practice about animism, it's actually a way for people to have the connection with the emperor, with the Tenno, even Tenno is not around in their life.
Now that the part of the like the facet of the the relationship with the emperor has changed in the culture, as far as I'm aware, like they have a kind of a different political system now than just an emperor. How does that relate to the Shintoism part of what you were just saying?
So say in Shintoism that the Tenno or the emperor is the representative of the god. So like everyone who is related, like who the Tenno gave birth to, like her daughter or like her son, is all the daughter and son of the god. So they eventually build a temple to worship them. So and they became a god after they passed. So it's a little bit like ascended master if we put the new age concept to it. So after they pass away, so they reincarnated as a emperor or as a Tenno, and then after they pass away and they reincarnated to a deity in Shintoism.
And is that still true today? I guess is what I'm okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
That is so thank you so much. Like I say, this is all new history and information that I've heard.
Yeah. So it's still true today. Say if you go to Tokyo, and then you will see Meiji Jingu. Meiji is one of the emperor's name.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, and I've been to his temple in Tokyo.
Yeah. So it's actually a temple worshiping the Meiji Tenno. Because like this the Shintoism is not only about animism, it's also about the emperor hierarchy as well.
And Meiji was because there was the Meiji era during Usui Sensei's lifetime, right? Am I remembering that
Yeah,
correctly? Yeah. So that was
correct.
the emperor when he was, yeah.
Yeah. So say in some Reiki practice, they actually also chant the Meiji Goze. Meiji Goze means like it's a poet written by Meiji Tenno. So by chanting that poet, is helping them to reconnect with the Tenno, so to reconnect the source of Reiki as well. So in some Reiki practices, how they believe the Reiki works.
And how do you spell the Tenno? What's that word?
Tenon.
Okay. Just making sure I'm understanding that correctly.
Mm.
So
And so
then,
that would, oh, go ahead, Robin.
well, I was just going to ask about SHK as well, because that's another kanji, but that's a whole nother aspect of this. So Colleen, I don't know if you had a related question before we move into
I was just going to ask about then the five Reiki principles or Reiki precepts. So those have been, I get different information that those are from Emperor Meiji, and then others say that there are other sources of it. So the just for today, I will not worry, I will not be angry.
So I think it's from Usui Sensei, because at the end of the Reiki 5 ideals, there's a signature from Usui Sensei. So I think it's from Usui Sensei. But then the Meiji Goze is another poet. So it's about like to celebrate the glory of the sun or of the moon. So it brings back to the animism part of the Shintoism.
Okay, I see.
because it's precepts and tenets like that and principles are pretty common in or maybe common's the wrong word, but they are a part of Buddhism, or I know that they can be common in martial arts in more traditional forms. At least I thought that was true, but Kenloch, you can probably speak better to that.
Yeah. So it's not really related to Buddhism.
Okay.
So there's like two biggest religion in Japan. So which are like Shintoism and Buddhism. So the concept itself kind of like cannot work together because they are from different contexts.
Mm-hmm.
But then Seiheki is from Buddhism. Because the Seiheki symbol itself looks a little bit like a Sanskrit. And the Sanskrit is Hli. So the Sanskrit actually looks like this.
So for those listening, Kenloch is searching for his, I think the pre symbol. Ah, there we go.
So it actually looks like this.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like a little bit like Seiheki. And then also this symbol is put in the middle of the Kurama Kurama temple.
Yes.
So it's directly connected to the Kuan Yin energy. And then the meaning behind is to reflect or to have a deeper awareness to yourself. So because like Sanskrit is a really special uh really special language. So each word can actually connect it to an essence of the universal energy. And the Seiheki, like the origin, is from Kli, and then Kli is about compassion, is about awareness, is about deeper understanding to yourself. And it's actually quite connected to the Seiki energy because it allows you to heal your ego and then to heal your dark side, to have a deeper understanding to yourself, and then to release the emotion, and then to build the compassion for yourself or for the world.
Interesting. And for those that are listening, it's HRIH for Hree, although I know it's pronounced differently, but just for people who are listening.
Yeah.
We can look that up.
And so with it, it's interesting because for me, and also for those of you listening, it can also be called the mental emotional symbol, or SHK. But for me, that particular symbol really goes into our inner truth, which is just another term for, I think, what you just said. And also inner authority. And it's such a deeper meaning to me with listening around, well, what does inner authority mean and how it relates with that symbol is the depth of that inner knowing, and that you know what you know, and you have that your own personal direct connection.
Yeah, definitely. So, and also, sei in Japanese means your personality. Heiki means peaceful. So it's helped you to build a peaceful personality. And then you can start doing anything peacefully. And then I think it's just perfectly connected to the world peace upgrade. Because the Seiheki itself is to build the inner peace, like so that you can expand the peace to the world.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So then what about the other symbols? Now that we've
Keep
covered
going.
this.
I'm
So yeah,
learning
keep
so
going. The
much.
distance
Yeah.
symbol, the master symbol.
Yeah. So the Honsa Seishonen is a little bit is from Buddhism as well. So Honsha is a way that the emperor or the god address themselves. It's a pronoun. It's a pronoun in ancient poets or ancient scripture. So when the emperor or the god is addressing themselves in those poets, they will use Honsha. And then ze is. So and then shonen, like I look it up into I look it up a Buddhism dictionary, and then shonen means non-duality. So when we put everything together, is I am non-duality. So it's also telling us that the universe itself is non-duality. Although we see like lots of duality idea in our life, so says who is better, who is not that good, or like who is worse, or like who is right, who is wrong, who is bad, and who is good. All those contradictory idea. But then the Honsha session is reminding us like everything is from the same origin. So that's why it can help us to do distant Reiki, and it also helps us to connect with all the spiritual beings. Or when we use Honsha Seishonen to send the energy to the moon or to the sun, it's telling us that our essence is no difference with the God, and then it's not different from the nature as well. So to rebuild a spiritual connection with everything.
So also, for me, it comes in as the divine heart, and the origin of pure consciousness. And now, but we've recently learned in the history, and maybe you know more about this too, is that Usui Sensei actually worked with Honshisei Shonen, and then the other two symbols actually came in later by the second president of the Gakkai.
So, Kenloch, what's now that you have kind of talked about, you know, the power symbol being Shintoism, but the mental, emotional, and the distance symbol being Buddhism. Did I recall that correctly?
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting concept with that relationship between, like you were just saying, that, you know, of course, Shintoism and Buddhism are two separate things. And then yet we have symbols that are from kind of both belief systems, the distance symbol being the one that Usui Sensei said and, you know, used, and then the first two being brought in later, but yet they're still from two different
Yeah.
ideas.
I guess the reason is that Usui Sensei meditated for a few years in Kurama Temple. And then Kurama Temple is quite an interesting temple in Japan because they have their animistic belief, like animism belief. The god in Kurama Temple is Sonten. Sonten is a trinity god with a combination of moon, sun, and earth. So the concept is already quite animistic. So it's quite connected to the Shintoism idea. But then Kurama Temple also serve Kuan Yin. So that's why you can see the Seiheki, the origin of Seiheki in Kurama Temple. So the Kurama Temple is already a mixture between Shintoism and Buddhism. And then I guess that's how Usui Sensei was having all the inspiration.
Yeah.
And then for Honshisei Shonen, I have a story to share. So it's just my personal reckon, but I think it really makes sense. So Usui Sensei second son, his name is Usui Huji. And then Huji in Japanese, when we translate it into English, is non-duality. So Honshisei Shonen, the shonen, the explanation of shonen is non-duality as well. So I guess, so Honshisei Shonen is like a gift from Usui Sensei to his son as well. Because his first son passed away because of the plague. So his second son is the one who be with him for the longest time. So I think it's a tribute to his son.
Interesting. Well, that's so interesting. And then, you know, also this idea that there's this, you know, this kind of, I can't think of the right word, but this collaboration between the two belief systems within, you know, also coming from that, like you were saying, the Kurama Mountain, and yet Reiki doesn't require a belief system. So it's almost kind of even inherent that it didn't come from just one specific belief system, even though there's, you know, the foundation of those, but that there's these two belief systems even within the foundation of the three symbols. And as you know, you were saying that even the mental emotional symbol is Sanskrit, which we know, that there's this kind of, in the foundation of it, there's multiple belief systems.
Yeah, that's actually a good insight. Because the idea of spirituality is that we don't have to be religious to be spiritual. Like we don't have to be a certain member of some religion, but we can still be really spiritual and really connected and really intuitive as well.
Well, I think that's one of the foundational qualities of Reiki energy, is helping us to access our own inner truth directly. And on a spiritual level, if a person is religious, it will take them deeper into that religion. If they are non-religious, or let's say even, their belief system is atheism, or even, or scientific, it can all be described and defined in so many different perspectives. So to me, when I work with Reiki as a biofield, part of the ethers, the frequencies of the energies that exist in those higher and lower frequencies, it has just it's the same from a different language to define it.
Yeah.
And I think that, as you were sharing your early story, I think so many of us have that same story of being brought up in more strict religious beliefs, and then questioning the authority of those beliefs, and looking, for me, it was like I didn't know what I was looking for. I knew that I wanted it to have two important qualities. Was that what I found on a spiritual path didn't have the one right way, and it didn't have judgment. And it was so long, I was almost 40 before I found it. And that was with shamanism to begin with. But then with Reiki, that's when it really clicked in, because I think that's the nature of Reiki energy, is to give us that direct access within us and around us, regardless of our belief system. And it doesn't have the one right way, and it doesn't have judgment around it. So I know you've been through religious studies and your own process with all of that. And again, I think that's a topic that is very much, Robin's story. She has that same almost identical process.
Almost identical, yeah. I came to it a little bit later. I'm a bit older than you. I'm 40 now, so I came to it a bit later in my life, but I was raised in it. I got my Reiki attunements at about, I would say 14, 15, somewhere around there. But I, then went into atheism or agnostic, and then kind of came back around, and now. So anyways, but it was really interesting. I was like, part of me was like, oh, I wish I would have identified it a little younger, but it's all our own journey. So it's all good.
Yeah. I often get that a lot, like when I'm taking spiritual classes, like few years before, and then people would look at me like, how there's like a young person here, like why people think that like say something like Reiki or like spiritual practice is for somebody who is older. But I guess my existence is just to tell younger people, like people in young generation, that no, you can actually start really early. And then because it's something that will change your life. So if you have that earlier in your life, then you will have a really powerful tool to transform your life and make your life very different.
Well, it's one of the things that I love about Gen Z is actually, I'm a millennial, and Gen Z is coming to it a bit younger in life. You're seeing it more frequently, and it's good to have people that are teaching it to, that you're able to teach it to people that are, closer to your age, even if they're a little older or a little younger, and people leading the way, because you do see that openness to spirituality. I feel like in Gen Z a lot more, as millennials, we came to it a little bit older, and then, Colleen is your generation, even a little bit older than that. But I love that about Gen Z in general, is that you are coming to your own ideas of spirituality a bit younger, and being able to have it in your life.
Yeah. And I recently have lots of students. They are like 16, 17, 18, or like 20. So they are like, they heard Reiki and then they had experience of Reiki and started to love it.
Yeah.
And then they're really learning it in their earlier stage of life. And then I guess 20s or like after 16, sometimes things get a little bit complicated as you go up. Like you have start to have some relationship issue, and then you started to have like more confusion. And then Reiki, like what Colleen just said, is actually helping you to build that inner authority and to that clarity to yourself. So you are able to really be your authentic self, like when as you grow up. So that's really important.
Well, if what you're saying makes my heart sing. When I originally started with Reiki, and of course, I had no idea that it was leading me on this path, or that this is the path that I wanted to follow in my life. And so I was doing some work on, I think, probably building one of my first websites and going into what is the meaning of this for me? Like, why am I doing this? And so I connected with the spirit of my Reiki practice and asked, like, what is my purpose with this? Why am I here? And I was so surprised because I thought it would be animal Reiki, because I received Reiki because of my horse. And I was surprised when it came through automatic writing, is that I was to help Reiki become so mainstream that children would grow up with it as part of their wellness and healthcare, and that also they could grow up considering being a professional Reiki practitioner, Reiki teacher, that it could financially support them and their families. And so I love just the visual here at my age, Robin's age, and your age. And Kenloch, as you know, as soon as you and I connected about you being a licensed teacher, and we had already established an age for a licensed teacher, an age requirement of 25 to apply to the program. And then after talking with you, I went back as a co-director of the licensed teacher program. I went back and had a whole discussion with William and the team about, well, where did that number come from, and why? And is it an arbitrary number to say you need to be 25? And because of you, we changed the age so that people could become a licensed teacher, apply and become a licensed teacher, because I could hear your inner truth just coming through you. Even the skill and the knowledge that you had was immediately apparent, but also the sincerity and the integrity that you presented with. And so anyway, I'm just so excited about, this evolution of the system, that it does reach people at a younger age and not have to go through the process of seeking.
Yeah.
For me, it was not only a long process of seeking, but in the finding of it, I had so much unlearning to do. And I know you were going to talk some about the religious trauma. And it wasn't even, I wouldn't say it was all religious trauma. I was raised Catholic, and, kind of the same thing. I left the authority of it, stayed in connection with, Jesus and Mary and a lot of the deities that I was raised with and in relationship with already. But I think that that's another aspect, as people learn it earlier. You don't have as much unpacking of the belief systems and that outside authority to do. So can you talk somewhat about your process with that too, and how Reiki heals that part of us?
So before I move into my religious trauma, actually, before I contact you, I actually have 2 nights of struggle because like the struggle on should I reach Colleen and say, oh, I'm underage, but I still want to join the program. Should I do that? Should I do that? Should I do that? Like having like 2 nights not sleeping well to think of that. And then I start to realize that the age is actually, well, there's 2 sides of it. Like I'm happy and I'm lucky to have Reiki in my early age, but I'm also sometimes having anxiety that I am a young Reiki teacher. Will people kind of like judge me just because of my age? Like thinking that I'm not having the certain level of life experience, or like I'm too young for a deep spiritual practice. But I realized that there are all judgments from myself. I actually never received any judgments from my students saying that, oh, you are too young for Reiki. They appreciate my teaching. So I spend some time with Reiki to heal their inner judgment to myself. And then I contacted Colleen like with the most sincere word, like I'm underage, but I'm qualified. So I'm wondering if there's any chance that I can still join the program. And then I think my authentic self like just pops up. So that's why you feel my sincerity and then you change things. And I'm glad that I made the change because I genuinely hope that there are more young spiritual leader coming up as well.
I think
So do
so.
we.
I think it's really important, and especially having Gen Z, and I don't mean to continue to bring it back to that, but honestly, the relating that you can reach to people, I think, is also really important. And as Colleen said, this can be a career path. I mean, and it's not to say that won't change, but there are, as Colleen said, that you can choose this as your life path and be successful at it. I mean, those are the ages that you would maybe come out of college and, as you said earlier, become an economist or a lawyer, or, I mean, I know sometimes you got to pass the bar and the doctor, you got to do your residency, things like that. But those are the ages where you typically come out of college and go into a traditional career path, right? But the fact that you can make this choice and make this your career and be successful at it, and you need the wayfinders, you need the people that are going to be doing that, and you can relate to the younger generation. I mean, you have people in your classes that are 16 and 17, and that's extraordinary. And being the inspiration that they too can choose these paths for their careers, for their life path is, that's extraordinary. And I think that it's just as people can come out of high school and they can choose to have a yoga career or, be a chef, like you still need the training, but it is a viable career option. And I think that that's actually really important and really inspirational for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's my first job after I graduated.
Wow.
And I think being a young Reiki teacher doesn't just relating to people in my age. I have students that are older than my mom coming to me and say, I really like your class. You just make me feel energized all the time. You feel really energetic. And I feel like I'm rejuvenating with you. And then I said, oh, so nice of you. And then, I like to bring that kind of like vibrant energy and the young energy to others as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's also, I think that Reiki activates our inherent knowledge and wisdom at any age. You know, we can see children being born starting to speak of it at 3 years old. And that's when, in a lot of cultures, the children are identified at a young age as having the remembering. And then, from my perspective, at my age, considering too that, you know, you guys are creating the next generations, and we can see that the children are being born remembering and also being allowed to remember from a spiritual perspective their own inner truth and not being required to shift into a required structure or particular belief system. And it's interesting to hear that that's happening where you are too, because here in the United States, there are a lot of people who are leaving organized religion and finding their own inner spirituality. And you're right. For me at my age, I absolutely listen to you and hear within you that just the energetic knowledge coming through, whether it's, you know, 30 years of experience or whether it's that inner knowing, it's already showing up and it's already here. I mean, I'm listening to you right now, and I'm learning so much. It's like, you know, and I've been doing this for almost over 25 years now. So I don't know that age has anything to do, well, it does have to do with wisdom too, that we gain, but in Reiki, it's activating your inner truth.
I guess people in different age have their own wisdom as well.
Yeah.
So say children learn like the wisdom to play, the wisdom to explore. And then the teenagers have the wisdom of exploring their potential. Yeah. And people that are in their 20s, 30s, developing themselves and then to build deeper levels of inner authority. And people who are in older age, they have their life experience shared and then to share to contribute the wealth. Yeah. That's a good insight.
Yeah, I feel like at my age, my role is to just hold the stability and for the younger generations to come in and develop these ways within, and particularly in this idea of the change from the outside authority to the you know, younger generations already coming in with their own inner authority, to me is like what I can do right now in my place. And, you know, I share the wisdom that I have and the years of experience that I have also, but there's always more to know and more to learn. And so I feel like my role is just stay stable, be kind, contribute, and, you know, just hold the space for you guys to come in and create your world and your life in new ways.
So, Kenloch, how is it teaching in Hong Kong and Eastern Asia? One of the things that you've said is that, you know, the concept of chi or ki or energy is rooted in Asian culture. So they're open to it more, or I don't know if I said that correctly, but, you know, how is that there?
I think, of course, like in different culture, there are skeptics, like people who are skeptical to like spiritual teaching or like something that is unseen. But I think because the language itself has already deep rooted with idea of qi. So say if we say somebody have a bad temper, in Cantonese is pei hei cha, means pei means spleen. So hei is qi energy. So basically means that this person have a bad spleen energy. So because spleen is somewhere that you control your own temper, like in traditional Chinese medicine theory. So when we said like bad temper, we said pei hei cha, pei hei cha. And then also like we always have an idea of eat hay, like eat is heat, hay is energy. So like you have too much heating energy if you are eating too many potato chips, deep fried food, or food that are like really spicy, and then your body will store a lot of heated energy. So and also we have a word heifan. Heifan means the atmosphere, the energy of the space. So like when we talk about this kind of idea, so like all the metaphysical and also the unseen idea of the world, we always use the word energy, qi. So even though somebody who are not Reiki practitioner, they can still understand the idea of qi. So when we explain Reiki in our class, it's actually easier for them to understand because there's so many things to reference. And even in Japanese, like Japanese, we use a lot of key idea. So when people say hi, they ask like Genki desu ka? Like, are you having a good energy today? So when we say somebody is being too quick, so it's kiga hayai. So hayai means your energy is running too fast. So we use energy, the word energy, to describe so many different types of human condition, whether they are healthy, they're not healthy, they're being too ambitious, they're being too angry. We always have that reference. So when we do Reiki, we can kind of like put that idea of the understanding of energy into our Reiki practices. So I think in a way that is actually easier for us to learn. And also because say when we walk in our park, like the park in daytime, there are some people doing Tai Chi or they're doing Qigong. So they're like when they're doing like different kind of like posture, you kind of feel like, oh, this kind of people have an energy practice. So naturally you see people having that energy practice in your life. So even you don't believe in energy or anything, it's already in your culture. So it's deep rooted in your mind. It's easier to teach Reiki that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. That it would be more open to it.
Yeah.
And the word Reiki itself, is it said as Reiki, spelled that way? How or defined the same way?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, I know that sometimes in different languages it can some interpret it the word Reiki as ghost or spirit or something along those lines. Is the word itself still spiritually guided life force energy?
I think in Cantonese and in Chinese, it still means like spiritually guided life energy. But then in some context, when we say Reiki, in Cantonese is Ling Hei, we will say, oh, this person is full with Ling Hei, means that this person is really clever or really sharp. Or like this person is really spiritual connected and full with personality. So it's actually quite a good word. Or when we describe a place, we would say, oh, this place is full of Ling Hei, full of Reiki, means like, oh, this place is full of spiritually guided life energy. So, or even though the Reiki sometimes in our culture doesn't necessarily mean the healing modalities Reiki, but the word Reiki is already kind of in our language already.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Well,
But that's
why don't-
interesting to hear. Yeah, in some culture it means ghost
yeah,
because not my culture.
right. Yeah, no, there was some, over the years that I hear people talk about their challenges in defining Reiki to people. And that was one of them that I heard as well. Yeah, except that where I live, it's often thought of as ghost. So, yeah. Well, why don't you share with us your offerings, what you have going, how people can find you, take classes with you, the language that you teach within, offerings that you do, offerings, I don't know, do you do sessions, things like that too?
Yeah. So I teach classes in Cantonese, in Mandarin, and sometimes English. I'm teaching in Hong Kong in Wan, and also teaching online. Started to teach online, and I'm moving to Australia at the end of this year. So yeah, I think I will start teaching in Australia to local people. I'm really guided to teach more English class now. So to connect like people who speak English and to share the wisdom that in my own culture and my language to them as well. So I'm not really offering so many sessions right now, but I'm quite open to have session booking. Yeah, so it can be an online session or a live session in my beautiful studio in Taiwan. So like the picture behind here is actually one of the view from the room, from the healing room. So this room, the background is a healing room. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Kenloch, because I was gonna mention that even
Yeah.
though you said you're late at night, that's actually the picture of your office or your room. So it's really beautiful. If you're not watching, it's looking over. Is that a bay? That is.
It's a harbor. It's
It's a
Victoria
harbor.
Harbor.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
and over Hong Kong with the cityscape in the background. So
Yeah.
really amazing.
And you see a little shine here.
Mhm.
I actually bought this from Japan. Yeah, it's like a small shine that you can serve the deity as well. And then here is Green Tara, and Green Tara is one of the reincarnation of Kuan Yin as well. So I just feel like it really fits the healing room energy. So welcome if you feel guided to contact me.
Right. And people would then, if they were in person, would fly into Hong Kong, or if they live already close by, but fly into Hong Kong.
Yeah. I recently have more students from mainland China and Taiwan, and they fly to Hong Kong to take my class, which I really appreciate. Yeah.
But if people can't fly into Hong Kong, they can also take classes with you online.
Yeah, definitely.
I know that people will be reaching out. So again, let's go over your website. And Kenloch's website is Kenloch, Kenloch, Kenloch Healing Space .boutir is BOUTIR.com. And again, we'll put that in our show notes. And also Kenloch the Oak Tree on Instagram. So they can find you there. The email, forest@outlook.com. And also with Robin and I, if you need to find him and need to email us, you can email us at reikilifestyle.com. And all of our offerings on reikilifestyle.com. Some of you, if you're listening to this with audio, the video will also have on YouTube, we'll also have some chapters. So if you want to actually look at some of the visual parts that Kenloch shared about the symbols, you'll be able to fast forward through it if you just want to get to that part. I think that was so fascinating that, as you called it, I'll just call it a little good luck charm. Already had chokeray on it. I had no idea. So that is just great information. And thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for all that you do in your communities and in our communities. And I'm so glad you decided to reach out. And so,
Yeah, I'm so glad that you changed the rule.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and absolutely. And sometimes in things like that, we don't know, our so many of the traditions and the procedure manuals and things like that were developed years ago, and things have changed. And so, we're always open to looking at things and seeing how inclusive we can be, and certainly age inclusive. And also going out to some people are, really retiring and asking if they're too old to join the program. And so really it's open to all ages, but certainly really glad Kenloch, and also just a little bit of a saying hi to Pam Allen LeBlanc, who has been Kenloch's mentor too. And I know you guys, she just talks so highly of you. And, she and I talk all the time, of course. So she talks so highly of you.
Thank you, Pam.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, Robin, anything you want to add?
No, I'm just, it was just really fun to have you, Kenloch, and spend this time with you. It is a part of the reason that we love doing this podcast, is that we get to talk to people all over the world and learn and share. And I would be really interested to see if, some of your information about the symbols could be, is it written somewhere that you have that written down where people could review that? Or
It's written in Chinese, but I will find one day to translate it into English.
Add it to your list, right? We know you're busy.
Yeah.
Especially with a big move coming up. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing, and definitely have to have you back and continue to kind of explore that too, because I know, like Colleen was saying, if she doesn't know it, like there's a lot of us out there that don't know it as well.
I'm more than welcome to do that.
Yeah.
Let's do dichomio and other Karuna symbol next time.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we'd love to do it next time. And with that, and then I know we just talked about adding it all to the list, but you might want to think about doing your own podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you need any help with that, just let us know.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
I think you have a wonderful perspective, and we have really enjoyed talking with you today. So thank you. And thank you to all our listeners. Again, you can reach Robin and I at reikilifestyle.com and find all of our offerings there. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Beautiful
Bye.
day.